Any other comments on the property tax issue?
One of the major things that I've been noticing is, and I just saw this on my own property tax, property values went down, taxes went up. And for most Minnesotans, they kind of think that property tax should be equal or follow the rise and fall of your value. But that isn't the case always in Minnesota. We dug into that a couple years ago to find out why, and well, it's kind of almost, by the time you get an explanation from the Department of Revenue, you kind of think it's some kind of Rube Goldberg type design thing where no matter how you create the formula, if your assessment goes down, believe me, your taxes are going up. And I think we need to maybe look a little deeper into how taxes are formulated in the state, because I really think that there's a fairness doctrine that people have in the back of their minds that say, if my property values are going up, all right, I'll make that because I'm gaining a wealth out of that property. But if it goes down, they better go down, otherwise there's a little anger out there.
I think that just...
It's kind of interesting to see how flexible is our state. If we have a growing demand like we have in our senior population, and with the baby boomers moving up into the senior age, where more and more demand is going to be put on our health care for seniors. If we have a growing demand, are we changing and growing a priority in that direction? And I think, the state of Minnesota, kind of a big ship to turn around in the middle of the ocean. We're plugging along, and it's going to be hard to adjust. But I think we've only been studying this growing baby boomer issue for about the past 50 years. So we should have had some type of a battle plan of some sort to deal with it. I think in the past we probably have neglected that in trying to have a vision for where we go in the future. But I think we'll be best suited if we can get ahead of it quickly. As the only Hennepin County legislator whose county citizens had to pay for the Viking Stadium.
Thank you, by the way.
We're twins, that's right. What did I say, Viking?
Because you want to do that one too?
Yeah, it's a Freudian thing, right? Yeah. No, I can say that there's a lot of, there still is an abiding mistrust in government when Hennepin County taxpayers were allowed to pay for the Twins Stadium almost solely due to the fact that representatives from both parties kind of ganged up. They said it was important enough to be called a state asset, but they weren't ready to pony up themselves for the benefit of that sports team to remain in Minnesota. I hope we don't go down that path again. If the Vikings, as you say, is an interest to everyone in the state of Minnesota, then everyone in the state of Minnesota should pony up if it's going to be a taxpayer-paid asset purchase for the owner. And I'm not sure if that's the best thing to do. Newspapers have been claiming that there's 20-some legislators already meeting somewhere in the capital area with the owner, Ziggy Wilf, and other representatives from the Vikings. But yet, I don't see any public involvement in it. I don't see the public being invited to these discussions. It's like the cone of silence has been placed over this subject. But everyone says, we got to do it this year. Now, there's a paradox in the public policy and the way things are being done and the procedure if the public does not have a right, or they do have a right to know and they aren't being told. I hope we don't get down to the last day of the session and get the surprise bill, and of course it's always billed, well, if we don't vote for it, they're going to go. And I really think that this is an important issue, but it deserves the public scrutiny that just about any other thing we do.
Well, it's
It's not a bill to consolidate these three agencies, but to study the practicality and how that might work. Senator Limmer.
This isn't a new idea. And the thing to keep in mind is legislators, whenever they get close to some crisis, they start pulling out this idea. And it's the same departments and agencies. It's been talked about for almost 18 years. D. Long brought it up in the House many years ago. And somehow the will of the legislature was not there. The the old adage that said that necessity is the mother of invention and crisis is the father of change is going to really be the watchwords for this next biennium when we're facing $4 or $5 billion shortfall. And I don't think we have a choice. Whether the legislature has a will or not, we don't have a choice. We have to reinvent the way government works. I might even throw in conservation officers on DNR and move them into the county law enforcement. It's a law enforcement function anyway. I don't know why an agency has to have a separate police force conducting some of its duties. So there's all sorts of angles on it, and I think it would behoove everyone, and even include the public out there, to give us ideas. We need them. We want them. We may think we would hope that the public thinks we have all of the great ideas in Minnesota, but we don't. And we're very representative of our people back home. We've also been looking at some of the administrative costs of higher education. And recent reports have been showing that in Minnesota, whether it's MnSCU or the University of Minnesota, some of the administration costs have consistently been going up in double-digit numbers. And I know that Senator Sandy Pappas was carrying a bill. She and I talked, and she wants to have a separate hearing on it. Some of these administrative budgets are going hugely up as compared to the student costs. Well, the student costs are being triggered by it also to keep up with it. And it's just time to really start roping it in.
This viewer wants to know whether there's been any discussion in this session of changes to pension and retirement systems, noting the controversy that has largely been occurring in other states, although Minnesota has some issues here. Let's talk a little bit about the pension and retirement benefits issue with respect to state employees. Has there been any discussion in that in this session?
Well, we've had a little bit of discussion in the State Finance Committee. That's Senator Betzold's committee. He's also the pension board chair, especially in some of our pension funds. They got hit just as hard in the recent recession hit in Wall Street as anywhere. And we all were kind of taken back by that. And of course, that's laying another problem on top of another problem of a deficit in our budget. The MRF account, Minneapolis Employment Retirement Fund, is one that the state had agreed to help subsidize a number of years back, and now it's under serious threat. They're planning on merging it in with another pension fund, and of course there's also requests for more money from the taxpayers to boost it. That has yet to be resolved in the Senate. We're not sure where that's going to end up. There's a few other pension funds that are also showing a little weakness, but they're stronger. They have a stronger pension board. They've managed historically to come out of the dips of the market from time to time, and so those are still being watched. But it's a issue that definitely has to be watched all the time.
A couple weeks ago, I had a couple of people debate.
You know, I also look at how the people that are in the existing job market today are facing their problems. Some of these people are being laid off. Other people are experiencing cuts in their pay 25, 30% in order to keep some semblance of stability in their homes. I wouldn't like to make our pension funds go in that direction, but in order to keep some solvency, that certainly should not be an option that is taken off the table. Now, with that in mind, some of our pension funds, state commitments were made, promises were made to keep some of these funds available or sustained. And the state hasn't always had the best track record of keeping the commitment. Now, some of us simply believe commitments made should be commitments kept. And this whole economy is really complicating everything that we've managed to come to terms with.